I'm Atomy COO Young Soon Yoon. I'm sure you're all aware of HemoHIM's immune functions. In addition, HemoHIM has been recognized for its fatigue recovery functions. HemoHIM is truly amazing. It caught both hairs after all, immune and fatigue. HemoHIM has 22 patents and 35 journals on it. It is simply the #1 product of its kind. Many of you will know this fact, but did you know more HemoHIM is sold than ginseng? HemoHIM wins by a considerable margin. Its cumulative sales are $2 billion, and it is being exported to 19 countries, with consumers spread across many more countries than that. I went to Tanzania last June. It's a country we don't have an office in. I attended something called the World Christian Medical Association. When I was at the conference, I actually saw a doctor from Europe taking out a packet of HemoHIM and drinking it. I was so surprised. I asked where he got it, and he said that he tried it and loved it, so he brought it to take during the trip. Oh, it blew me away. It was incredible. Only people who have tried HemoHIM truly understand all the effects that it has. There are 35 research papers on HemoHIM, but we've only been recognized for 2 of them, immune and fatigue. Do you think there's more to HemoHIM than this? Yes, there is. There are many more functions that haven't been approved yet, so I can't speak with confidence just yet. Anyways, since we actually have the 35 journals, we are continuously looking for other effects of HemoHIM. And as you all know, HemoHIM strengthens the NK cell in the immune function, enhances the cytokine functions, and the immunocytes to create the perfect trio for our immune systems. Frontline soldiers, middle contacts, bringing in reinforcements, and then educating new soldiers in the back. HemoHIM has this perfect trio for the immune system. Then what about fatigue? It's the same for fatigue as well. It's almost impossible to get rid of fatigue. It tags along everywhere. And if you read the comments on our homepage, people have written, "It worked for my son's fatigue, and it helped my daughter studying. I used to be tired all the time, but it's a lot better," and other similar posts. Actually, back when I was a student in medical school, one day after church, my lower right stomach started to hurt. And I didn't know why, so I looked through some books. And do you know what the appendix actually is? Yes, I had appendicitis. Actually, the correct medical term was acute appendicitis. So I went to a senior who was about to graduate in the next room and said, "I hurt right here." So he looked through his notes and told me that it looked like appendicitis too. He said to go to the emergency room, so I did. I told the doctors that it hurt here, and they all said it looked like appendicitis and I needed surgery. My parents lived in Cheongju, so it would have been difficult to receive help from my parents during recovery. So I told the doctors I needed to go closer to home, and they said that I could. So I caught a cab at 1 in the morning and went to a medical center in Cheongju. Before I left, I called up my mother, and I said, "Hello, Mom. I'm going to Cheongju to get surgery for my appendicitis right now." To that she said, "Is that so? All right then, bye." So I hung up. But it was so odd. Anyways, I got a cab. And when I got to the hospital, I called her again. "Mom, hello, I'm at the hospital now, and I need to get hospitalized." And again, she said, "All right then, and goodbye." What was going on? It was also weird, so I called her again. "Mother, hello, I need to get surgery. They're going to operate on my appendix first thing in the morning." Then, out of nowhere, my mother says, "I told you that I got it. You son of a gun, what do you keep calling me for?" And she hung up on me. At the moment, I thought, what's going on? What is this? I understand her 100%. My mother sold coal briquettes on her own, and she cleaned 3,000 of them every day. Yeah. So, she had to work non-stop to clean 3,000 briquettes. So I guess I could understand how she could have been basically half asleep when I called her that late at night. Why do you think she swore like that when I told her that her own son needed surgery? She was exhausted. If it wasn't for fatigue, if HemoHIM had been available, I think my mother would have said to me, "Okay, where are you? I'll come over there right away." But my mother was so tired that when she heard her son was getting surgery, the only thing she felt was angry and upset. Fatigue wrecks homes. Fatigue destroys the relationship between mothers and sons. Fatigue should never enter our bodies. That is just how important HemoHIM can be to people. When fatigue starts to become chronic, there are a few symptoms that you'll recognize. Your memory gets poorer. So, you might think that you've become forgetful. Anyone experience these symptoms? It's related to fatigue. Next, you might not sleep well. And that too is related to fatigue. And headaches and dizziness, that is related to fatigue too. Not digesting well, this too is related to fatigue. There's so many other symptoms too. Anyone have numbness in their hands and feet? Anyone have colder hands and feet? That's all related to fatigue too. Blanking out, poor memory, not being able to sleep or digest well, having cold hands and feet. Also, there are people who ache here and there. This is because of something called fibromyalgia. This is closely related to fatigue. If you have trouble remembering or keep blanking out, have migraines, colder hands and feet, indigestion, and on top of that, have a short temper, if you get angry and irritated, we say that is repressed anger in Korea. But they're all connected. They really are. So what are the causes? Well, there are actually many. There's stress. It could be caused by an infection, or when your immune system breaks down. It can be caused by a hormonal imbalance. It also happens when the neurotransmitters aren't secreted well. So if you think you have repressed anger because of your mother-in-law, that's a mistake. You don't have repressed anger because of your mother-in-law. It's fatigue. No matter how nagging your mother-in-law is, people who only need 2 hours of sleep a day don't get repressed anger, because it's doable for them. You keep feeling tired because you're required to do things that are beyond your capabilities. However, there's not much we can do about things like hormonal imbalances or neurotransmitters. But there are numerous lifestyle habits you must change to achieve this. But the 3 that come before that, stress, infection, and our immune system, all 3 of them can be dealt with by HemoHIM. Why? HemoHIM's main ingredients are Angelica gigas and Conidium, right? Paeonia japonica is the 3rd ingredient. So for all 3 of them, Angelica gigas and Conidium relieves stress. Conidium relieves our mental stress. Conidium helps relieve mental stress, while both Angelica gigas and Conidium have antioxidant properties which get rid of oxygen radicals in our bodies. It also relieves tension in our bodies. That is how Angelica gigas and Conidium relieve stress. And moreover, because HemoHIM helps our immune system, we are able to make up for infections or abnormalities in the immune cells. This means that HemoHIM is absolutely crucial in beating chronic fatigue because it addresses and controls these three: stress, infection, and immune system. I treated many patients during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are many people who feel fatigue after being sick with COVID-19. In Korea, doctors actually have a term for it. They call it long COVID. Long COVID. And when patients say they have these after effects after COVID, we diagnose it as long COVID and then treat them accordingly. After a while, we became curious as to why they suffer from such side effects and combed through many articles about it. And we came across some interesting data. Most people who suffered from long COVID had poor functioning NK cells. NK cells. And the worse that the fatigue was that they experienced, the poorer functioning the NK cells were. What is the first thing we activate within the immune system with HemoHIM? The NK cells. NK cells. So if any of you catch COVID-19, I recommend taking twice the amount of HemoHIM that you usually would. Because by activating the NK cells, you can reduce the after effects of COVID-19 on your body, especially all of the after effects of fatigue. And to me, it's so surprising, but if you look at how data on HemoHIM is connected to everything, you'll see that it's all related. Seoul National University conducted an experiment on fatigue. The first index of FSS and the second was MFI. The FSS index is basically when we say, I'm tired of doing this, I can't do it anymore. And the other, multidimensional fatigue inventory, is, I feel too tired. I can't even begin this. The first is I'm tired from doing this, and the other is I'm too tired to start. So they compared the two of them. Normally we say it's effective for fatigue improvement when just one of the two is enhanced, but HemoHIM enhanced both. Both. It improved both, I can't do this anymore, I'm too tired, and I'm too tired to start this. They found that both levels were increased. Both indexes were increased. Both. How does HemoHIM do that? That has to do with HemoHIM's hematopoiesis. It expands the blood vessels and improves blood circulation. The vessels in our bodies total up to 120,000 kilometers. We have these extremely long vessels, and by expanding them, the blood circulation is greatly improved. The reason that HemoHIM is so effective in enhancing fatigue is behind the increased blood circulation. So, if any of you happen to be in the cold briquette business, I strongly advise taking HemoHIM before you work. And if you do that, you can answer your son's calls with a smile. You'll be able to say, "Where are you? I'll be right there." HemoHIM is great to take before you start working. If you're planning on doing any physical work, if you work in any of the fields, take HemoHIM first. If you take it afterhand, the recovery might be longer. If you have a basketball game, take HemoHIM first. If you have a soccer game, take HemoHIM first, because it will make all of the difference. But is fatigue it? Let's talk about the immune function, which we always emphasize. If we try and put it simply, there's inherent immunity and adaptive immunity. Inherent immunity is what makes up the frontline soldiers when the enemy enters our bodies. Adaptive immunity is what makes up the cells that are preparing for battle behind them. Which one should we send out? This one or this one? How about this weapon? Adaptive immunity thinks a long time about which troops would be more effective for which battle. So, to say something is effective for the immune system, it should activate both the inherent and adaptive immune cells. If we were to compare this to the Korean War, the North Korean soldiers came down south, right? So the soldiers in the front line fought courageously. They were the NK cells. They fought with all their might. While they were in battle, we informed our military, the US and the UN troops, and said, they have these unrecognizable tanks. They have so many tanks. The front line will inform the others that it's impossible to win because of these tanks. Then, cytokine steps in and communicates the situation to the rest. Cytokine communicates with others to call for the best troop. As a result, they bring in planes and helicopters to defeat the tanks. Later, they bring in stronger tanks to fight the North American troops, so we begin to fight back. And after 1, 2, 3 years of war, we have lost many of our troops. There are no more soldiers to fight for us. There's a troop in the back where all of the new recruits are trained. They train them all for battle and assign them to their posts. This is basically the same as activating the immune cells. Then, how does the immune system stay perfectly intact? First, you need soldiers in the front line, the NK cells. Next, you need those that pass on information and bring the appropriate troops, cytokine. Then, you need to train new recruits and bring them to post. Activation of the immune cells. HemoHIM allows the perfect combination of these 3 tasks. There are no other health functional foods that have such a thorough portfolio, including the first, second, and reserve forces in the immune system. As I told you earlier, the clinical tests proved that HemoHIM is very effective in improving the immune cells and functions. And on top of that, it also reduces stress. In every single test we have conducted so far, we've always seen that HemoHIM reduces stress. Stress can be addressed in 2 ways. First, mental stress. And second, oxygen radicals are produced in the body when we go through intense physical labor and causes fatigue. Just like the immune system, HemoHIM covers both stress types. Both of them. Conidium deals with mental stress on us, and physical stress can be managed with Angelica gigas and Conidium. Because these 2 ingredients decrease stress in our bodies, I hope to be able to share how HemoHIM was effective in stress relief with scientifically approved proof in the near future. The body is just like cleaning the house, taking out the trash, and invigorating our surroundings. The same process is required for fatigue relief. So, our homes could be wrecked by thieves or heavy wind and rain. What protects us against harm in our bodies is our immune system. Fatigue and the immune system are the 2 key functions in leading a well-balanced life every day. And just how well-balanced will HemoHIM keep our bodies? Well, it's extremely effective because it can cover both fatigue and immunity. So now, to wrap it up, it deals with the immunity perfectly, as well as fatigue that all of us experience all of the time. So, with HemoHIM, I'm positive that many of you will be able to now lead well-balanced lives. HemoHIM, which increases our immunity and helps relieve fatigue. This fact alone should be enough to make you proud of being in the Atomy business. So stand tall and proud. And before I leave, when I shout out Atomy, please respond by shouting HemoHIM. So let's go, Atomy! HemoHIM! Yes, thank you.